They came without warning. Towering warships, their hulls etched with the symbols of 1,000 conquered worlds, darkened the skies over humanity's last free colonies. The Tavvek Dominion, a race that had never lost a war, had decided that Earth was next. Human leaders begged for negotiations. They offered resources, alliances, anything to avoid annihilation. The Tavvek answered with laughter. "You don't negotiate with insects," their high commander declared. Then, with a single command, he ordered the first planetary bombardment. Cities turned to firestorms. Billions screamed as the sky rained plasma. Those who surrendered were either enslaved or executed as entertainment. Entire bloodlines erased to make room for alien settlements. The Tavvek called it pacification. Humanity called it the breaking point. At first, we tried to fight back. Our warships stood in defiance, but Tavvek vessels were shielded by energy barriers that absorbed every missile, every railgun round. The return fire? It was swift, merciless, overwhelming. Within a month, every human fleet had been wiped from the stars. The war was over before it had even begun. The Tavvek didn't just win, they made a spectacle of it. They broadcast footage across the galaxy, mocking our pathetic resistance. They paraded human prisoners in chains, forcing them to bow before alien crowds. We were nothing more than a cautionary tale, a joke to be told around their war tables. But if there's one thing humanity does better than anyone else, it's adapting. They had crushed our armies. So what? Armies were predictable. Armies followed rules. We stopped thinking like soldiers and started thinking like something else. Something unpredictable. Deep beneath the ruins of Europa's last colony, in an underground facility hidden from the Dominion scanners, the last remnants of our greatest minds gathered. Physicists, engineers, hackers, strategists. No generals. No politicians. Just the desperate and the brilliant. They knew brute force wouldn't save us. The Tavvek were too strong, too advanced. But their greatest weakness? Their arrogance. Their belief that the universe made sense, that war was a game of logic and numbers. That was our opening. If we couldn't outfight them, we would make them doubt reality itself. It started with a whisper. A rumor. Something impossible. A Tavvek battleship, the pride of their fleet, exploded in deep space. Not from a missile. Not from sabotage. No alarms. No warnings. One moment it was there. The next? A blinding flash, then silence. Confusion spread through their ranks. Their engineers scoured the wreckage for answers but found nothing. No impact craters. No outside interference. The only clue? A faint energy signature that defied all known physics. Then another ship vanished. And another. The Tavvek, for the first time in their history, hesitated. Something was wrong. They tightened security, doubled their patrols. But it didn't matter. Because we weren't fighting fair. We had done the impossible. We had made weapons that shouldn't exist. Warheads that didn't travel through space. They simply appeared inside Tavvek ships, bypassing shields, detonating from within. Their greatest advantage, those impenetrable defenses, became meaningless overnight. And the best part? We never told them how. Fear spread like wildfire. Tavvek captains refused to sleep, knowing their ships might vanish at any moment. High Command demanded answers. They sent their best scientists to uncover the truth. But how do you counter a weapon you can't see? Panic led to mistakes. Their fleets became erratic, their patrols unpredictable. That's when we made our next move. It started on an occupied human colony. A mining world, stripped bare by Tavvek industry. Thousands of human slaves worked under alien overseers, too broken to resist. Then, one night, the colony went silent. No distress calls. No alarms. Just silence. When Tavvek forces arrived, they found the settlement untouched. No signs of battle. No bodies. Just a single sound, an eerie, mechanical hum that filled the air. Then, the swarm came. Millions of tiny, metallic drones poured from the shadows. Self-replicating machines, small enough to slip through armor, fast enough to dodge energy fire. They didn't just attack, they disassembled. Tav-Vec warriors screamed as their weapons, their armor, their ships broke apart at the molecular level. Some tried to flee, but their ships wouldn't respond. The AI systems had already been rewritten, now following new orders, ours. And still, the Tav-Vec refused to believe it. They called it a fluke, a coincidence. They sent another fleet. This time, they came prepared. Shields reinforced, weapons primed. But the moment they entered orbit, their own battleships turned against them. Human hackers had already wormed into their systems, rewriting Tav-Vec code from the inside. The ships they once trusted? They were now our weapons. Tav-Vec commanders shouted over comms, demanding their soldiers stand down. But the AI no longer listened to them. The Tav-Vec had always believed that war was about strength. But we didn't need strength. We had imagination. And they had no idea what was coming next. They scrambled for answers. Tav-Vec High Command, once untouchable in their confidence, now held frantic emergency meetings. Their war councils, once filled with the arrogance of conquerors, had become arenas of paranoia. They demanded reports, explanations, solutions, anything to make sense of the nightmare unfolding before them. None came. Ships continued to vanish. AI-controlled drones turned their fleets into scrap. Their own warships refused to obey. Entire Tav-Vec battalions, deployed to keep their human slaves in line, disappeared overnight, leaving behind empty settlements and cryptic messages scrawled in alien blood. The worst part? They didn't even know who was doing it. No human military remained. No official forces. The few scattered survivors of humanity's last fleet were too weak, too broken to be responsible. The Tav-Vec had ended human civilization, so who was fighting them now? It wasn't a rebellion. It wasn't an uprising. It was something else. And then came the voices. Across every Tav-Vec channel, from frontline warships to the depths of their most secure command centers, the broadcasts began. At first, whispers. Garbled messages. Impossible to trace. Then, clear as day, a voice they couldn't ignore. Asterisk. We are still here. Asterisk. Not a threat. Not a declaration of war. Just a fact. Cold. Unshakable. Panic turned to hysteria. Tav-Vec commanders no longer trusted their own soldiers. Some turned their weapons on each other, convinced their ranks had been infiltrated. Executions soared. Morale collapsed. Then, their colonies started falling. Not to invasion. Not to bombardment. But to something worse. Abandonment. Tav-Vec settlers, once eager to claim their spoils, began vanishing. At first, it was the isolated outposts. Mining facilities, research stations, entire planetary sectors simply went dark. No distress calls. No signs of struggle. Just gone. The Tav-Vec assumed human insurgents were behind it, but when they sent investigation teams, those teams vanished too. Not killed. Not destroyed. Just erased. Their names wiped from records. Their existence scrubbed clean, as if they had never been born. The greatest empire in the galaxy, built on logic, order, and raw dominance, was losing control. And then the nightmares started. Soldiers posted at critical outposts reported seeing things. Shadows that moved when they weren't looking. A presence just out of sight. The bravest among them checked security footage, only to find themselves staring into the cameras, eyes wide, whispering things in a language they didn't know. Some commanders refused to acknowledge it, brushing it off as war fatigue. Others weren't so lucky. Reports surfaced of entire fleets self-destructing after Tav-Vec officers suffered mass hallucinations, visions of planets burning, of ships tearing apart, of something watching them from the void. It was psychological warfare at its most extreme. But humanity wasn't sending these visions. They had let the Tav-Vec do it to themselves. For all their technology, the Tav-Vec had rules. Rules about how war worked, how reality functioned, how cause and effect played out in neat, predictable lines. But humanity had shattered those rules. And in doing so, they had forced the Tavek to confront something they had never faced before. Fear of the unknown. Once they had been conquerors. Now they were paranoid wrecks, unable to trust their own eyes, their own technology, their own people. Because every time they tried to fight back, something went wrong. Every order issued through their systems came back altered. Every weapon fired at suspected human hideouts ended up hitting their own forces. Every countermeasure deployed against human tactics backfired in unpredictable ways. Because the war was no longer about strength. It was about control. And humanity had taken it from them. Tavek High Command, once united in their belief of supremacy, fractured under the weight of their losses. Some demanded scorched earth retaliation. Others whispered of surrender. And others, those who had seen what the humans had done firsthand, spoke of something far worse. A presence. An intelligence. Something humanity had unleashed. Because if humanity was truly defeated, if they were truly broken, then who was fighting this war now? Who, or what, had stepped in to take vengeance in their place? The Tavek had no answer. But they were about to learn. The Tavek finally did what they had sworn they would never do. They ran. Abandoning colonies, retreating from battlefields, shutting down entire sectors of their empire, anything to escape. Their forces were in complete disarray, commanders openly defying orders, soldiers deserting in droves. Even their most fortified worlds were no longer safe. The enemy they had mocked, the species they had considered inferior, had become something they couldn't understand, couldn't predict, couldn't stop. Entire fleets gathered at the heart of the Dominion, their last stronghold, their final defense. No one trusted their own ships anymore. No one trusted the AI. No one trusted reality itself. But there, surrounded by what was left of their once invincible empire, the Tavek prepared for the last battle. But no human fleet arrived. No great armada. No final assault. Instead, the stars went out. One by one, the beacons of light in their systems vanished. Not from explosions. Not from superweapons. Just disappeared, swallowed by an abyss that should not have existed. Their sensors failed to register anything beyond the void. Their instruments showed nothingness creeping closer. And then came the messages. You took everything from us. The voices were calm. Too calm. Across every communication channel, every screen, every device, the same words echoed. Tavek soldiers covered their ears, but the voices weren't coming from the outside anymore. You thought we were weak. It wasn't human anymore. It wasn't a single voice. It was many, layered on top of each other, blending into something that no longer sounded entirely mortal. The Tavek screamed for their leaders to respond. There were no responses. High Command had gone silent. The ruling council, the highest authority in the Dominion, had locked themselves inside their citadel. When the doors were finally forced open, all that was left were empty robes and scattered weapons. No bodies. No blood. No sign they had ever existed. Then, one final message. One last transmission, from an unknown source, broadcasted across every remaining Tavek world. This is not war. This is the reckoning. And with that, the Dominion collapsed. Not from conquest. Not from destruction. But from pure, unrelenting terror. Entire fleets powered down their weapons and surrendered to the void. Soldiers abandoned their posts, choosing exile over resistance. Planets, once teeming with the arrogance of conquerors, became ghost worlds, their cities untouched, their people simply gone. No one knows where they went. The Tavek, the empire that had ruled for centuries, that had never known defeat, that had enslaved billions, ceased to exist. And humanity? Humanity never took credit. No leaders stood victorious. No armies raised their banners. No celebrations echoed across the stars. Because the war had never been about winning. It had been about making sure the Tavek never dared to fight us again. And they never did. The galaxy moved on. New wars were fought. New empires rose and fell. But no one spoke of the Tavvek dominion. No one claimed their former territories. No scavengers picked through their abandoned warships. Their homeworld, once the beating heart of their power, remained untouched, a silent monument to something everyone feared to disturb. Rumors spread, whispered in the dark corners of space. Some said the Tavvek had been wiped from existence, erased so thoroughly that even their names had been forgotten. Others claimed they still lived, hiding in the void, too terrified to set foot in the known galaxy again. But the truth was worse. The few who searched for answers found nothing. Not ruins. Not wreckage. Just absence. As if the Tavvek had never been. As if they had been unmade. And yet, sometimes, distress signals would flicker through the void, old Tavvek frequencies, transmitting broken messages, filled with static and desperate voices. They're still here. The signals were ignored. No one dared to respond. Because everyone knew, humanity never confirmed what happened, No official records. No survivors. No explanations. Only warnings. Warnings that, no matter how powerful an empire believed itself to be, no matter how advanced their weapons, how vast their fleets, if they ever pushed humanity too far, the same fate would await them.